I've lost track of how many times I've witnessed support players griefing the laning phase. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the handful of support players out there, but if they don't know what they're supposed to do, they can single-handedly ruin the game. As compared to other roles, supports have fewer amounts of moves, but those moves can make or break the game. In this video, I will go over a few fundamentals that every position 5 player needs to know in order to become a good laner. While this is common knowledge, I don't see it being implemented even in my own bracket. As a position 5, please block the hard camp in every single game. The only time you don't block it is if you're an enchantress or a Chen. In that case, you can use the hard camp to your advantage by taking control of one of the neutral creeps. Buy 2 sentries, one to block the hard camp and the other to unblock your small camp if it's blocked, or save it for some other venture. Why is it so important to do that? In the safe lane, creep placement decides which side has the advantage. Ideally, you want the wave to be near your tier 1 tower, because there are a few advantages to it. Towers are usually your safe haven. If the enemy wants to kill you and you are near your tower, you can just run inside its range and they won't be able to achieve what they want. In comparison, if the wave is near the enemy offlane tower, you have a long way towards your safe lane tower. And in most cases, you'll either have to give up a wave or two, or you'll lose all your HP and even die in some cases. In this case, creep equilibrium is really important and it keeps your wave from pushing into the enemy. Similarly, if you have a kill threat on the enemy, if the wave is near your own tower, the enemy has a long way towards their tower and you can chase them down. Whereas, if the wave is near the enemy tower, they can just run inside the tower and they will be away from danger. It is also generally a lot safer and easier to secure CS when the wave is near your tower because you don't feel pressured. So how does blocking the hard camp help with this? If the hard camp is not blocked, the enemy can pull their wave onto it, resulting in your wave pushing into the enemy, and then after that, you will be forced to play near their tower, which will make you vulnerable and also ruin your kill threat as discussed before. While there are scenarios where sometimes not blocking the camp can be played towards your advantage, keep it simple and just block it so your carry can have an easier time. Almost every support player knows what pulling is, but what they don't know is the conditions behind pulling. A lot of support players just mindlessly pull whenever they get a chance, which is the wrong way to do it, and a lot of the time you will ruin the game for your carry player by doing that. The purpose of pulling is to bring the wave back to near your tower. Most support players don't know this. They will pull even if the coming enemy wave is going to be near their tower, which in return brings the enemy wave inside their tower, and as a result, their carry player has to tank a lot of damage and is prone to being dove and dying. This part is really crucial because as a support player, you can throw a perfectly good lane because of these types of pulls. Here are some pulling rules that are simple to follow and execute. You should only go for a pull if your wave is stuck right outside of the enemy offlane tower. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that your number of creeps isn't more than 4. If you have more than 4 creeps, instead of going back to pull and forcing your carry to either take harass or give up on the next wave as it's hard to 2v1 near the enemy tower, help him pressure the enemy such that your wave is forced into the enemy tower. When the wave enters the enemy tower, you and your carry can pressure the enemy by denying creeps and even harassing them. Not only that, the tower kills the wave and then in turn the enemy wave pushes back to you without you needing to pull or sacrifice a wave. Typically, when people see that the wave is pushing into the enemy, instead of forcing it into the enemy tower and getting it pushed back, they just let the enemy have it outside of their tower, which in return makes your carry miss out on a wave or two for no reason. Remember to force the wave inside the enemy tower. If you have 4 or less than 4 creeps outside of the enemy tower, pulling is the right thing to do as you can't use the creep advantage to pressure the enemy because it will be a 4 versus 4. Whereas, if you have more number of creeps, you can use that advantage to pressure the enemy. If the wave is inside the enemy tower, either don't pull or only half pull. If you do a full pull, what's going to happen is that the enemy wave will push into your tower, and then your carry will have to tank creeps as well as the 2 other heroes. If you do a half pull, 2 creeps will tank the wave for your carry, and the small camp will be able to kill the 2 creeps you pulled, resulting in the enemy missing out on XP. Essentially, in this position, don't pull at all or do only a half pull, otherwise you will just grief the lane. In terms of pulling, always remember that pulls are mainly done to bring the creeps back to near your safe haven, which is your safe lane tower. Whenever you pull, think about where the enemy creeps will end up if you pull. As long as the creeps are not entering your tower because of your pull, you can attempt it. Lastly, stack pulling is good but isn't necessary. At the end of the day, your job is to bring the wave back. You can do that with single pulls or half pulls perfectly well. Don't wait to stack a camp and then pull, because a lot of the time your carry will be forced to give up on a few waves because of that. The next thing we will be talking about is the power runes. Almost no one in the lower brackets goes to secure the power rune for their mid laner. People have the misconception that it is only position 4's job. Think about it like this: if your position 4 is on one side of the rune and you're on the other, essentially making it a 3 versus 1 situation for the enemy mid laner, how do they ever get the rune? Power runes can accelerate the game of your mid laner by a long shot. A haste rune allows him to rotate efficiently, shield rune allows him to play aggressively without dying, and you get the idea. Similarly, if the enemy mid laner gets the power rune, their game also accelerates, which is why it's crucial to make sure that does not happen. It's a neutral objective, and neutral objectives can impact the game drastically. Now the question is, how do you actually go to secure the power rune without leaving your carry in a rough position? Here are some things you should keep in mind. Make sure the wave is near your safe lane tower so your carry can easily see us. If the wave is pushed into the enemy, do a pull and then go towards the 6-minute rune. The idea is to keep the wave in a position where the carry feels safe enough to farm it. If your carry has a mobility spell to escape, or if your carry is strong enough to 1v2 or even 1v1, then you can go for the runes. This can also be used to leave the lane and gank other lanes, as your carry does not require you to stay in the lane anymore. Lastly, make sure you have a TP scroll so in case your carry gets in a dangerous situation, you can TP to help him. In 7.33, they removed the Tome of Knowledge and introduced Wisdom Runes for XP. The only problem is that Wisdom Runes are a neutral objective and anyone can take it. This basically means that you can starve the enemy supports by stealing their runes and vice versa. As a position 5, you should be stealing the enemy Wisdom Rune whenever you get the opportunity. Easy to say, but not as easy to do. Here are a few things that can increase your odds of yoinking the enemy Wisdom Rune. Wisdom runes spawn every 7 minutes. Ideally, you will only be able to yoink the first one that spawns at 7 minutes, because at that point people are focused on laning, so you can go unnoticed. If you want to make sure you get the rune, try to move before the rune spawn timer such that you're on top of it as soon as it spawns. It's easier to do on heroes that have high mobility or spells to disrupt the enemy position or stun them. Heroes like Pugna with high movement speed and Rubik with the stun have an easier time stealing these runes as compared to heroes like Oracle. Similar to going for power runes, you need to make sure your carry doesn't suffer because of this play. If your carry is not having a good time, leaving him alone is not encouraged, and in this case, don't go for the rune. Lastly, make sure you have an idea of where the enemy heroes are on the map. If not, you will end up feeding a free kill to the enemy while not even getting the Wisdom Rune. If you can get the rune in exchange for your life, it's worth it. If your team manages to get both the Wisdom Runes, the XP deficit will make life miserable for the enemy supports, and their impact will be negligible as support heroes rely on levels. That will be it for this video. This was my first support guide. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Make sure to like this video as it will help with the YouTube algorithm, and please subscribe so I can continue with this venture. Other than that, if you are interested in private coaching, you can join my Discord linked in the description. Have a nice day and good luck with your games.